Good morning everybody. My name is Kevin with Bullish Bears. Today, this stream at least, we're going to be going over a pre-market stream. This is going to be pre-market plans. We're going to look at some futures, ES, NQ, crude oil, and GC, which is gold. So let's get into the ES real quick. First, let's take a look at the daily time frame. We want to know exactly what direction has the market been pushing in. And where are we exactly, right? So we took out these lows right here. We see that we took them out because I have the crosshair on and it lines up to the right. We took out these lows. We had a nice strong move up. So higher time frame is of course suggesting we're in more of a bullish trend. Now we come down to like a 6-hour time frame. We have a basing candle and a rally. That is the demand zone that held yesterday. So I'm watching previous day low as sell side liquidity inside the 6-hour demand zone in case we want to pull back. Now we sort of get lower time frames going, right? We get a 2-hour going, we'll get a 1-hour going, then eventually we get to the 30 and 15. When we get to the 15, we'll go over these zones up here, which are crucial for today. Now these zones over here were broken 30 and 15-minute demand zones. See how the market broke them? It pulled back and it failed the rally off of these zones, even though it held once on this zone. So if anything, delete that and keep an eye on this one as an area of interest. But I would only want to use that as supply, right? And we already broke that plan. So this one right here, I'm going to delete. Want that out of my space. Clean chart is a happy chart. Got to be updating our charts. Now let's break it down to the 15-minute time frame. And something I wanted to point out on the 5-minute on NASDAQ, or I'm sorry, this is the ES. ES on the 5-minute, and we'll delete this for a second, delete that for a second. We had a really clean 5-minute fair value gap built right here, and this move happened from 11:05 Eastern all the way till 11:45. So this was a 40-minute drop, and that's sort of what gives us the move. And once we start seeing a strong pullback like this one, that's when we're able to plot our Fibonacci tool, and we see that that 5-minute fair value gap lined up with this optimal trade entry. So because I see that happened yesterday, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the same type of price action or setup to happen today. And I'm going to show you the NASDAQ as well that also gave us a similar setup at the same time. Now this would have been a setup that we could have taken for a short position. We would have been able to have our entry, if we were patient, entered somewhere in this consolidation on these green basing candles. If we weren't patient and wanted just to wait for the break back below, we could have put our entry at the fair value gap. Stop loss above, because we ticked the top of the fair value gap 3 times. I would recommend putting the stop loss a tick or two above the fair value gap in case we did want to tick it again before rejecting. And then we would be able to target either new lows or the next major demand or order block. It would be a demand instead of a supply today this day because we were moving down, and that would have given us a really nice risk to reward on that trade. Because it happened though, this move happened at 12:40, right? A lot of day traders trade in the mornings versus the day traders that, trade in the afternoons or whatever. So a lot of people did miss this move. This was a very strong move in the afternoon. A lot of people either tried to catch this one right here, which was a lot significantly smaller than this one, but the main 2 moves were this one, then it had the leg up, and then it had the continuation. So I'm going to be looking for the same type of thing today. This was a bearish move though. Again, if we're looking at the daily time frame, the daily time frame has been quite bullish up until yesterday, which had a nice pullback. Let's even check the weekly time frame because I want to know the very high time frames. I want to know exactly what's going on. Give me a clearer picture. A clearer picture of this daily time frame tells me that bulls might be able to continue. This candle right here was so strong. This weekly candle, it took us from, 214 points, 4% on the ES in total from open to close. So 214 points is a lot. That's insane. That's a great move. That's a lot of bullish pressure, right? So again, it's Friday. I mentioned in the chat, in the Discord yesterday, that we might be building up like Monday through Thursday so we could get a nice big pop on Friday or something like that. So even though I am curious as to if bears want to step in and hold these strong zones again, I'm going to be a bit more patient, and I might end up playing these supply zones as demand if the buyers do want to step in and give me the pop that I not predicted, but and not assumed, because we can't assume anything in the market, we can't predict anything in the market. It's just part of my plan, right? So something I planned, right? If this happens, I want to see if this will happen. If we ranged all week, I want to see if we're going to pop Friday. So this is yes, sort of went over. These are the levels I'm looking at. This was a 5-minute fair value gap we rejected, created a 15-minute supply zone. This was the same thing. 5-minute fair value gap was rejected, created a bit of a 15-minute supply. This one's okay. This one's okay because it had a real strong impulse move after, knowing that there's a lot of liquidity in the market there. And if we don't break, what time is it? 8:43. We got some time. I'm looking for my favorite tools. There they are. If we don't break this high for a little bit, and we'll mark that out, right? That might be pre-market high, and I might want to see if we want to break pre-market high and reject that 15-minute supply if the NQ hasn't broken that high. But the NQ doesn't really have much until way up here around 19,816. So that's about 60, 70 points away. Let's wrap up on the ES, then we're going to cover the NASDAQ, guys. So this is the ES. Something else I want to mention is we don't have much demand holding us up. Sort of have some trendline liquidity sitting here. Now, when I'm looking for trendline liquidity, it does not level up or line up exactly with the candles. When you're looking for a trend line itself, it should be lining up with the candles. What I'm looking for is basically a very choppy move in a certain direction. This one is a choppy move up. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking that this pivot here most likely holds some stops, right? People have their stops sitting there. This pivot, all these pivots or all of these weak higher lows, that's resting liquidity. There are people waiting to stop out at those points. Now we can cover the NASDAQ. Love the NASDAQ. NASDAQ, I wanted to show real quick before we get into the higher time frames and whatnot that the NASDAQ, when we came up into that fair value gap entry on ES, we had a 5-minute fair value gap right here too, a very small one I might add. And unfortunately, I was not at my computer as well. What's going on? Good morning, Brandon. What's up? What's up? YouTube, drop a message. Let me know what you guys are trading. Let me know if you guys want me to cover any specific stocks or tickers. Right now, we're going to be doing futures. I just covered ES. We're going to do the NASDAQ now. Then we're going to cover crude oil and gold. So real quick, just wanted to mention, we did have that similar entry. ES and NQ were sort of going hand in hand on that. And then it gave us a similar move, came into this 5-minute fair value gap in this optimal trade entry, would have been able to target those lows or even the next demand zone. And because this is the NASDAQ and that fair value gap was so much smaller, this would have been an insane trade, guys. It's crazy because it happens. Give me one sec. You okay? You okay? All right. Let's see. Give me. Never mind. All right, we're good. NASDAQ. Let's go. NASDAQ 15-minute. We want to see what zones we're watching on the NASDAQ too. So NASDAQ has this supply zone right here, right? Now, usually when I'm teaching supply and demand, I want to see a longer wick. So I want to see this middle part, this wick, go much higher, much longer, because what that does is it shows me that there is a lot of sellers or buyers trapped in the market. For this instance, it would be a lot of buyers trapped in the market because the wick shows the body failed, the candle failed to close up here, and then what happened following, we had an impulse move lower. This impulse move leaves a lot of unfilled orders, and it leaves an imbalance in the market. Some people might mark out this fair value gap right here as the impulse move. Some people would mark this out right here as the supply zone. So it all depends on your strategy, your style, and your confirmations and being patient on that. So because we didn't get that long upper wick, I am still going to mark it out as a red zone. I'm just not going to really mark it out as a 15-minute supply or anything. The reason I'm marking it is because that yellow zone, I believe I had as an area of interest a while ago. It hasn't been the strongest, but it is still sort of trying to line up with this middle point right here. So we're keeping an eye on that. This is our range right now. So now we're building up higher time frames. This is the 1 hour on the NASDAQ. Let me build that up a little more. Move these around. So NASDAQ, we have a 1 hour demand zone. 90 minute. Let's see, 90 minute demand zone right there. Nice small basing body. Nice long lower wick. That's the imbalance. Then what happened, we came into it and we held. And now we're pushing back higher. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this demand zone as well today to see if this will hold. If we're looking back at let's put our volume on so we could sort of tell how many days we're looking at. We're looking at, this was yesterday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, right? So this is this week. This is this week right here. So our range right now is from this low area, around 19,600, to about almost 20,000. So that's a pretty wide range we have right there. And even though yesterday was so bearish, we're still in an uptrend, right? Buyers have still been pretty strong. And because of that weekly time frame we saw on the ES, I'm going to be looking at the weekly on NASDAQ. And note that, yes, even though we have a long upper wick right now, this still doesn't count for Friday's close. Today's close, if we pump, we could pump all the way above this 20,084 level. I have this as a key level because it's the high of that weekly, and if we're looking at the daily too, it is also a bit of a major pivot, right? We had a drop, a pullback. This is where that pullback ended, and we dropped again. So that's a pretty strong buy-side liquidity. Looking at the daily time frame, it wouldn't be that crazy to consider seeing if we could pump up and hit that target. So that's going to be if buyers want to step in. We're going to keep an eye on our equities as well, right? We have Meta pumping pre-market. Microsoft had a bit of a gap up. Tesla as well, and same with Nvidia, a bit of a gap up, about only $1 gap up on Nvidia, which is nothing special. And of course our weighted index. So we're going to be keeping an eye on those. I'm going to even keep the watch lists up, and we're going to look at it from change percentage. When we look at a watch list from change percentage, it tells us which one is the strongest and which one is the weakest. And the reason for that is because each stock is at a different value, right? It's at a different price. So a $1 or a $2 move on, say, Amazon, which is trading at 151, a $2 move on Amazon is going to be much stronger percent-wise than a $2 move on something like Microsoft, which is at $400, right? So the percent is going to be much greater. It's going to have a greater impact on the stock, on the options, etc. So that's a great way to find some momentum and strength when trading options and stocks. What up, Parish? What's up? What's up? Good morning. Good morning. Guys, YouTube, don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to go live for the market open at 9:30 as well. Make sure you either stick around or get ready to join that one. That's going to be a different live stream link. So let's put our equities back up here. We're going to go back to our NASDAQ. So now that we sort of spoke about it, we got an idea. We want to see us at least hold that previous day low. And we got to make sure we mark out our previous day low because it's important to know where that is at. Now, of course, just like in a bear market, just like in a bull market, just like in any market, when we create our plans, we want to create plans for both directions. We don't want to make a plan for the buyers and just assume we're right. We don't want to make a plan for the sellers and assume we're right. We want to make a plan for both directions. So because of that, I'm going to really be keeping an eye on those 15-minute supplies that I mentioned earlier. So that's going to be this one right here. This zone I'm going to break. This is an old zone. This zone I'm going to break, even though it's a big one. It's funny, the big ones are always the most painful to break. But if they're broken, they're broken. Just got to get rid of it. This is a 15-minute supply. We're going to keep an eye on this. Other than that, right? So now that I have my zones, I have my plans, my thesis, I'm going to look to see if maybe we want to move, and let's see if I get the path. Maybe we want to move higher, break that zone, and retest it, right? Maybe at this point over here, we're going to create a fair value gap, right? So I might look for some type of entry and something like that, right? And a fair value gap that overlaps with that 15-minute demand supply zone, right? So now we would be looking at a breaker block and a fair value gap, a unicorn setup. So that's something I would consider to look for. Maybe we'll reject that and then hit some type of fair value gap and break through it, right? Maybe we'll reject it and push lower to this demand zone. See, these are things that we don't know in the market are going to happen. If buyers are very strong, I will say if buyers are strong enough, we will pump through it and retest it and push higher, right? And that would be pretty clean. That's something I would consider to look for. What else? But this, of course, I do want to see some type of fair value gap or something form. What else we can look at? So let's take a look at gold. That was the NASDAQ. We covered the NQ, the ES. We will look at, let's do gold first. Yeah, then we'll do crude. I'm a big fan of trading crude, big fan of trading the NASDAQ. ES and gold are pretty cool. I just won't trade them as often. So let's take a quick look. Let's look at that weekly time frame on gold. So sort of the same situation as we have on NASDAQ, or the the weekly time frame is very strong, right? We had a very strong week last week, and then this week started off strong. And then yesterday we had a strong pullback. So right now it looks as if we're very weak, but this isn't taking account for where we're at when Friday closes. Today's Friday. That could mean we consolidated all week just for a strong pop today, and we could close somewhere up here on gold, right? So I was sort of looking for 2,600 on gold this week because of the momentum of last week, but because of the weakness it had this week, 2,600 is not that valid of a target. It's very high up there. I'm not going to be looking for that target. We'll put up a trend line up there. Make sure the coordinates are the 2,600. And black it out. And we'll even put a little dollar sign on there so we know, like, that's the money line, right? That's the either a target or an area that I want to see a rejection or reaction, anything. So now let's break it down into a bit of a smaller time frame. We looked at our weekly. Now let's look at our daily. Daily is also looking very similar. Just these past few days, just this past week, to the NASDAQ, where we sort of chopped around, dropped, and then, but we're still sort of in this range. We dropped out of the past few days range. Mark those lows out so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This low right here. Make it a bit thicker. And this low right here. That sort of made the bottom of our range, whereas the top of our range is somewhere near up here, right? So we took out the lows of this range. We re-entered the range. If we could hold these lows with strength, then theoretically we should be able to see the top of the range, right? And that would be for a crazy move. But look at last Friday on gold. That's a crazy move last Friday on gold. And we aren't even halfway of that, right? So that's a pretty nice move. Let's see percent and point wise. What was that? 43 points, almost 2%. So right now we are at 16 points. So for 43 points, it would bring us pretty close to the top of the range. We would need that 2% right there, 50 points to hit the top of the range. So not too out of the water, not too out of the question, but we definitely have some cleaning up to do on these zones. So again, I'm looking at these highs, like marking out these highs, know what's going on over there. Mark that out as buy side liquidity. Make sure YouTube, could you guys hear me okay? Yes, perfect. Great, great, great. Again, guys, we're going to be going live for market open, see how these trade plans play out. If they play out, see what happens in the market, see what we can adjust for the next time, right? So we're on the 15 now on gold. We're going to look real quick at the hourly, see if there's any hourly demand zones. See this low right here, we're going to delete that. This low right here, we're going to delete that. This is previous day. Oh, you know what? Let's get this back and drag that to yesterday. That's previous day low. Delete this. We're going to see. How do you copy it again? I'm always doing that. Whatever. Make that previous day high. So what was yesterday's high? I believe that was this one right here. No, that right there. Previous day high is important to keep an eye on, especially if we want to go long. Right up there, okay. All right, let's get into crude oil. You know, I'm still sort of cleaning up gold right now. I'm not a big fan of these charts. These charts, it's just sort of chopping. It'll consolidate. You could even use trend lines on that. You guys know I'm not a big fan of trend lines, but you could throw trend lines on that and see that we would sort of chop around. We'd get tight, and then we would drop. You know, we got tight. We dropped right here. We sort of got tight there too, and then we popped. So we got tight the other way. Now it's sort of trying to pop. Trying. So keeping an eye up there. Keeping an eye. Let's take a look at the 30-minute time frame. 30-minute gives us a pretty nice zone right there. So we're going to mark this out as our 30-minute supply. Mark that to the high. Make our supply zone. And yeah, again, nothing really yelling at me on gold that, you know, this is a good zone, this is a good area. I guess the 45 is a bit of a cleaner supply zone because it's got the longer wick on top and a nice impulse move afterwards. But other than that, I'm not really seeing too much. So yeah, this zone right here worked out really well off that play. Let's see, supply zone. Maybe a supply right here. But again, other than that, not really seeing too much on gold. So we're going to take a look at oil. Oil has been another one of my favorites to trade. And if we look at oil on the daily, though, we do have a bit of a bounce, right? So we've had a nice move down for the past week or so. That's been pretty well for me. I've been playing those shorts pretty well. But we're going to be looking today to see if buyers want to step in. Because again, if we look at that weekly, now the weekly is sort of the opposite, right? So the weekly on crude is much different from the weekly on the NASDAQ, the weekly on gold. We have strong momentum to the downside. Now again, we're looking at this weekly candle saying, well, that's a long wick to the downside. That's a lot of stuck sellers. That's true if we continue higher today. If we don't continue higher today and Friday closes down here, that's going to be a very weak indication on the market that we might see a bit of a push lower on crude, which would be great. But crude hasn't really tested those sub 70 levels in quite some time. It did once over here on, I think that is June 3rd. And before that, we weren't there until February, right? So sub 70 levels would be pretty crazy on crude. It's sort of been maintaining this 70 to 82 range for quite some time. Even if we look back on the chart, crude is just a chop machine. So looking at the daily again, we're going to see if we want to find some resistance somewhere up here. So we're going to go from the daily to the 6 hour to the 4 hour to the 3 hour to the 2 hour. And again, we're just sort of chopping down the time frame so we could find a better entry. So that buy side liquidity was taken out. Here's that 5-minute fair value gap I mentioned earlier. We're starting to hold it actually. Let's see. Play, will we trade it? Let's see. I'm considering taking this fair value gap long here, guys. I think, let's see. We're gonna see how we react to it. It's a pretty solid entry right there if we held. My whole thing though is if we don't hold this and we do fail, what we're going to get is a break of the 30-minute supply and then a rejection back lower. I guess we could wait for this 5 to close and consider. So in about 2 minutes, gotta remember to look at the market. Or you know what? We got bookmap up. Yeah, we'll take a look at bookmap. What do you guys think? Yes or no? We'll take this crude oil trade if it wants to hold. Or we'll keep doing some pre-market planning. I like this level right here. It's 74 even. But that's below that fair value gap. So we're going to keep planning. We'll add an alert right here if anything. 15 minute, nothing too good on the 15 right there. 30 minute, I'll get it back bigger. 30 minute, we have a bit of a demand zone right here on the 30. See, we're trying to break that fair value gap, staying out of it. We have a demand zone there on the 30. Nice hold right there. We still haven't broken that entry. So I'm going to mark this D30. This is a 30-minute demand zone on crude oil. So if we do break this fair value gap, I would much rather consider this 30-minute demand zone. But remember what I just mentioned before about that weekly time frame being much weaker, right? So we would sort of look for bears to step in on crude instead of bulls. But other than that, we have our plans on ES, we have our plans on NASDAQ, we have our plans on gold. We are sort of chilling right now, and we're just probably going to be a bit patient. It is 9:03. I guess we could keep an eye on gold or crude here. Yeah, I'll tell you guys what. I'm going to...
Gold has hit all-time high and essentially is following the ES-NQ trend line.
Nice. I think I'm going to take gold. I'm sorry. I think I'm going to take crude long. 30 seconds left on the 5 minute. I'm going to let this 5 minute close actually. Because again, if it dumps on this the last 30 seconds of this, I'm not taking it long. If it holds, I'm taking it long. It's trying to hold. 74.50. Pretty high on bookmap. Yeah, it held. I'm going to put a limit order out there to buy it at the fair value gap. So if we tap into it one more time, I'll get filled on my entry. Stop loss is below. So stop loss is right here. Yeah, it looks like we're trying to come close to that. So there we go. We're filled long on crude. We'll take this trade and then we will hop off until we take live market open at what's it called? At 9:30. So we're looking at the 15, looking at the 30. Bears are trying to step in again. Just got to be a bit careful with that. If this is a quick stop hunt, that's alright. It's alright. We go light in these. We go very light. Especially because we were just going over that daily time frame. And that weekly time frame being a bit more bearish. And we're trying to go long now. So because we're counter trend trading that, we go lighter in our size. We go lighter in our position. Because most of our setups we're looking for are usually 2-to-1, 3-to-1 types of setups. So even if we go light, our profits on that is still heavier than the risk we would have on a regular trade. And we can always look to add as well. So right now we are in a long crude position. Entry was at this fair value gap. Stop loss is at the low. It is 9:06 right now. Let's see real quick one more time those higher time frames. I mean, I'd like to see us hold there. Come back up and hold them there. But if sellers want to run it right to our stop, then we're just stopping out, logging off, and I'll see you guys at 9:30. But other than that, we're going to sort of hold this and hang on the stream. But it does not look good at the moment, right? Bears are trying to hold us back down. Sellers are stepping in on the heat map. I got a pretty strong sell order right there. Not a fan of that. 74 is a pretty heavy level. Really got to be careful. But not stressing. No stress. Can't stress when you trade. If you're stressing when you trade, you're either going to too large in position, you're going too quick with your size. Just got to take it nice and slow. You can always either size up later, or again just take it one trade at a time. Middle draw. Again, not really looking the best for these crude oil longs right now. I do like that buyers are trying to hold us up at this point, so that's something in our favor. But stop loss is still at these low 74.05. 74.06, I'm sorry. So that's pretty good. That's good buying pressure right there out of that fair value gap. Me personally, I sort of got to find the next zone on crude if we want to continue. Well, let's look at the daily again. Maybe if there are any 50% on that, maybe this 50%, 74.55 is the 50% of this big candle.
You've got a significant volume node at 74.39.
It's funny, it's usually the lower volume nodes that I like to keep an eye on, because that's what creates the imbalances to the fair value gaps and such. Nice reaction, guys. Pushing back green on this crude oil long position. Again, entry 74.19, stop loss 74.06, target 74.60. This is about a 3-to-1 risk to reward. Just taking it easy though on crude, because that higher time frame was a bit bearish. So I don't really want to be jumping the gun. We went very light in size here. Buyers keep trying to pop it up and failing. I'm taking note of that. But sellers are also having trouble too, bringing us lower. YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. I'll keep skipping the ads for you guys. And don't forget as well, we go live on YouTube when the market opens at 9:30. So we'll see how crude takes us. I was looking for a better reaction out of this zone. This is not the reaction I was looking for. Wanted this 5 minute to close above the fair value gap. Again, it's not what we're getting. Definitely not ideal right there for longs. It's the 15 looking. 30, 45. Give me something. I guess the hourly looks bullish, but other than that, we're going to have to wait on this. Not the biggest fan of these longs right here on crude, but we're going to hold it. We're in our position. We have our stop loss. We have our target. And that's how we got to take the trades. Always. Always. So I'm just in one crude oil long. 74.19 is entry. 74.06 is stop. I do feel like it's going to want to run to that stop more than it's going to want to run to the target. Because of that higher time frame pushing bearish bias. So yeah, we're just going to be careful with this on crude. I do like, though, the heat map keeps having buyers step in. But I don't like that all these high volume nodes over here. So, gotta be careful. We have some heavy levels at 74, even 73.90. But we do have some heavy levels at 74.50 and even 74.69. So that's pretty strong. That's good. Something to consider. Maybe looking for a target 74.60, 74.69 because of those heavy levels on heat map. If we could make it break and run for up there.
All right, there's a little bit of a consolidation node, if you will, around 74.29. So I'd say let's look for that, see what happens there more than anything.
Yeah. Let's see, 5 minute, 15 minute. I'm also looking at the 15 here on crude, because if we want to close with a nice small basing and a nice long lower wick, we might have a rally following, and that would help us on the bull trend. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything really higher time frame wise to keep us in these longs. So really just waiting on this 5 minute to close. This 5 minute's going to be a nice telltale for us, right? I want us to close somewhere over here on the 5 minute. But now that I said that on stream, the market makers are going to watch that, and we're going to close somewhere down here. So just staying patient. We went pretty light in size. Stress-free trades are the only trades. I'm considering cutting it, but 2:30 left in the 5 minute. I don't want to be jumping the gun getting out of either a winning position. Nice little pump there on NASDAQ and ES. NQ a bit stronger right now than ES, seeing how it's breaking previous candles highs, and ES is failing those highs while it's at a 15-minute supply. So that's interesting, guys, right? That's the 15-minute supply that I mentioned earlier that gave us a really nice sell-off from that fair value gap. So we'll keep an eye on the 5-minute and 15-minute here on ES as well. Volume sort of dying down. You could tell by the 1-minute time frame on crude oil. So I'm just staying patient in this long position. I'm not going to get excited off of every pump. Not going to get disappointed on every drop, or else we would be full of emotions when we trade. I do like how ES is trying to hold the zone right here. Look at that iceberg right there too. I gotta get more into icebergs. I'll make a video on icebergs for you guys.
I think ice cream would be more received.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Still waiting on crude to close on this 5-minute. I'm looking at ES right here at this big iceberg, 154 lots sitting right there. Now, basically, I was looking into the icebergs. So you see how the heat map, it's a very heavy level on a heat map. The icebergs are basically other levels that should be on heat map but are hidden. So it's institutions, it's large banks, it's all these, it's hidden but hitting the market. It's large hidden orders hitting the market at a certain level. So that's pretty cool that Bookmap offers that. Got about 30 seconds for this 5 to close. Still wanted to close above 74.23. Not looking likely still. Probably just stop out of this. Again, depending on how we close. Because we were looking at the 15 to close up there too. 10 seconds. 15, I'd be cool if it closed a bit lower than that. Yeah, something like there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that. 15, 5-minute, 30-minute. The thing is, too, though, there's nothing really showing me like a supply zone forming. So, like, I feel like we still have room to the upside. So we could then make our way down. So I'm going to keep an eye on this level right here. This will probably end up being my take profit if we do push higher. I'm considering getting out of this crude oil trade for the fact that we're just failing to push higher, though. Every time buyers step in, we fail. Buyers step in, we fail. So this is a very crucial point right here on crude. If we could push above the 74.25 area, that would be great. As of now, we are failing that. So we're looking to move our stops up a little bit, because if we fail, we don't want to be holding a bigger loss than we should be. NQ still pushing up. ES still having trouble there. Crude oil still having trouble here, 74.25. Really want to see us take out that level. What time is it? We got market opens in about 15 minutes. I'll probably end up closing this stream and opening that other stream, guys, for the live stream. But we'll see. Maybe I'll just keep this one running. See, again, buyers stepping on crude. They fail. I don't want to be holding a long position if buyers keep failing. But I see that they're heavy on the bid as well. So it's like, sort of want to hold this, sort of want to see how it'll play out. But it's feeling like it's going to play out for the Bears. So I'm going to move my stop up a little more. Be disciplined to my stop loss. Move my stop to like right here. Because I feel like this thing could just like drop at any point because we're failing to push higher. but we're just staying patient. There's ES trying to push through that level. See how that looks on the book map, the heat map, with that iceberg. A very low volume in the market right now because it's still pre-market, so we don't have that billions and millions and billions coming into the market. It's pre-market. The New York Stock Exchange is not opened yet. Still holding these gold longs. Very patient on this right now. Gold's getting a bit of a pop right there. New high a day on gold. Alright, let's check back on crude heat map. Okay, getting a bit of a pop. Crude's trying to do its best. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. What is going on, everyone? Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Concerned Trader. What's up, Kevin? Jump over. E. Marcel, what's up, guys? What's up? Spicy, what's up, Spicy? What up, PR Wild? What's up, what's up? So we're still in these crude oil longs right now. Moved our stop losses up at this point. And just staying patient right now. I wanted to target 74.60. Heat map had a pretty heavy level, 74.63, but they pulled it. 74.50 is the next pretty strong level. So I'm probably just going to look for a new high to be taken out on crude, and that will be our target. We cleared that 74.25 for a moment, which I was talking about before. The question is, can we hold it? I'm probably going to let this 5-minute close, and I might add to this if we do want to push higher on crude. But 30 seconds left. Sellers are stepping in at the highs. Yo, it's that point of year. I don't know where you guys are at. I'm in New York, but it's that point of year where it's like 80 and then 60, and then the house is hot, the house is cold. It's just burr, burr, Come on, market, give us something to talk about. Give us something. All right, that's a pretty solid close on crude. Nice pump right there on crude. I'm probably not gonna add. I don't know. I'm not that in favor of this move right now. It feels very weak. If it does continue to my target, then fantastic. If it doesn't, then it's just going to stop me out for a very small loss. It's just how every trade really should be. But as for crude right now, just very weak. Looking at ES. Looking at those icebergs again. Stacking up strong selling in ES right now. Might look for ES shorts here, since crude wants to do nothing. Let's see. Crude's like, oh, I'll do something for you. I'll sell off right to your stop loss. No, let's see. Let's check out crude on the heat map one more time. Again, seller stepping in. We're into this fair value gap again. This might be a place to add if it holds, which is a huge if because it looks like it just wants to drop right now. And if it just drops, hits our stop, that's alright. I'm going to move my stop loss back to that low though. The reason for that is to give it a little room to breathe in case we do want to wick this low right there. I don't know though. I don't know. I just feel like this is just going to fail. 74.09 is my stop loss right now on crude. If we pop back up, I will add. If we drop, I'm just stopping out. Very small loss. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. Tick away. That was close. That almost stopped me out on crude. It's probably going to stop me out on this push here. Yeah, alright. So stop it out of crude. It is what it is. I guess, you know what? That wasn't the best area to exit in These buyers do hold, but looking at the selling here, it's just not looking that ideal. I don't want to jump in another long position just to get stopped out again. So we're going to take a look at ES. Get a feel for ES. Out of crude longs, right? So we out of crude longs. That's okay. It could still hold that fair value gap, and that's alright. 5 minute was weak. See, that blew right through it. Respected our stop loss. Did the right thing. Gold pulling back as well. We must have had some type of impact in the market. Got to remember, guys, at 10 o'clock Eastern today, Powell is speaking. He's going to be going over rate cuts, the economy, a whole bunch of stuff. So, guys, if I may, I'm going to end this stream. This was the pre-market plan stream. Went on a bit longer because we took that crude oil trade. Now we are going to end the stream and start our live stream in the market for the market open. So YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. I will see you guys on the next stream. Discord, you guys can stick around because that will not affect your stream.